Good evening and welcome to Money Matters. My name is Kimon Hatza and I'm a business attorney and partner at MillCrest Law in Radnor, Pennsylvania. I focus my practice in the areas of healthcare, life science, and technology. Tonight we're continuing our special series on healthcare leaders in the Delaware Valley. Before we get started, I want to remind our viewers that from time to time financial issues relating to healthcare or life sciences matters or companies will be discussed on the show. These discussions are not and should not be viewed as financial advice. Moreover, since this show is pre-recorded and shown at a later time, the information discussed may no longer be current. You should always check with your financial advisor before entering into any financial transaction. I'm happy to have with me as my co-host this evening Charlie Huntington. Charlie is the head of public relations for Pennsylvania Bio. Pennsylvania Bio is the voice of advancement for the bioscience industry in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Charlie, thanks for co-hosting.
Sure, Kimon.
Well, there's always a lot going on at Pennsylvania Bio. I know the annual dinner just was held a few weeks ago, and I've been getting information about some upcoming events. But the thing I wanted to talk to you about this evening, if you would, is a new initiative that you've started at Pennsylvania Bio, and it's the initiative that involves displaced pharmaceutical workers. And I was wondering if you could take a couple minutes and talk to our viewers about that.
Be happy to. So as you mentioned, Kimon, I got together with two colleagues of mine, namely Tom Hess and Ann Robson, and this was about 8 months ago, and we approached Pennsylvania Bio, and what we decided to do was to get the various skill sets in the room who may have been displaced from Big Pharma recently, to let them network together, tell their story. We have them use a profile sheet, which is similar to a resume, but on there it basically explains the companies that they're looking for introductions from. And it takes about an hour and a half. We cap it at 15 people, and the only requirements are that, one, you've worked in the pharma industry. Okay, not that you aspire to work in it, but you have to have spent time in the pharma industry. And the second requirement is we need you to be director level or above in your last position. Those are the two requirements. But if people are interested in that, they can get in touch with Pennsylvania Bio, and that's pennsylvaniabio.org, and speak to Karen or speak to Chris, and they could direct them to this group.
Do the individuals have to be members of Pennsylvania Bio?
No, they do not need to be. Oftentimes, they'll be coming from a large employer who is already a member, but the answer is no.
No, okay.
No.
Well, that's a terrific initiative. I wish you a lot of luck with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just got a message that for the Spring Social, which is at the end of May, I guess. Always a fun event, a chance to meet people, catch up with people, meet some new people, network a little bit. Is there anything else on the horizon that you'd like to mention? Absolutely.
So there is a 2-day symposium this fall, so October 25th and 26th down at the Sheraton in Philadelphia. This is the Sheraton downtown in Philadelphia. It's a 2-day symposium. The first day is geared towards poster sessions for young companies, and the second day is more networking, and you'll hear from industry leaders, and it really is it's a great, people typically set time aside, if for nothing else, during the year for the symposium in the fall, at least one day of that, and then of course at the spring dinner, which passed a couple months back, where we had 1,000 people there. Wow. So we'd anticipate there'd probably be 800 to 1,000 people at the fall symposium.
Okay. So, well, that sounds great. Well, we have a terrific guest this evening, so I'd like to introduce him and bring him out. Before I do, for our viewers, if you have a question that you would like us to answer on a future show, this is how you do it.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
It's with great pleasure that I introduce our special guest this evening, Dr. Steven Siepser. Dr. Siepser is an ophthalmologist and a fellow for the American College of Surgeons. He has been a practicing physician for 40 years. Dr. Siepser has written and published numerous noteworthy articles and papers addressing a variety of issues concerning eye surgeries and related matters. He's a regular and popular guest speaker and course instructor for the American Society of Cataract Refractive Surgeons, the American Academy of Ophthalmology, and other well-respected organizations in the field of ophthalmology. He's the holder of 6 patents relating to eye surgeries and has developed a world-renowned surgical procedure referred to as the Siepser sliding knot, which is used to repair defects in irises. In addition, he's a businessman and founder of the Patient Confidence Corporation of America, as well as the moving force behind its product, VisionLock. Dr. Siepser, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So this is really great to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. Could you tell our viewers what first attracted you to the field of ophthalmology?
Well, Kevin, I was in dental school. I didn't really like that. Then I became a pediatrician, and it just wasn't using my hands enough. And then I discovered ophthalmology. And if you read Gladwell's book, Outliers,
Yes.
actually I had been working underneath a microscope most of my career in college and medical school because I was an electron microscopist. And so ophthalmology, just at that time, we were starting to use microscopes. So it was a natural for me. I got to use the microscope and help people in wonderful ways.
Well, for most physicians, practicing medicine is a full-time job.
Yes.
Yet, well, I look at what you've done. You not only practice medicine, but you write and publish. You speak and you lecture. You develop procedures that enhance your own practice as well as the capabilities of other physicians. And you've started a company that's really outside the practice of medicine while maintaining a medical practice. I think about work ethic. I think about ambition. I think about those types of things that I say. What makes you, what drives you to do all of this, to go that extra mile, to do all these things?
Well, I don't really feel it's that much, It's been sequential. I don't do everything on that list every day, but I work on a project at a time, and I look for achievement. When I think of something, I get it published. When I invent something, I take it to people who are experts. I say, is there a value? And necessity is the mother of invention. I'm always struggling at the leading edge of what we're doing, like, how do we do this better? It's just what I love.
Did you have a role model or someone, a mentor?
I had several, actually. The late Charlie Kelman was the guy who got me into medical school. He was an ophthalmologist who invented the phacoemulsifier, the first really major advance this century in cataract surgery. He was a personal friend of mine, and really always was, well, he flew helicopters, so I had to fly helicopters. He did these wonderful operations and invented things. I had to invent things. But David Kaplan back at State University of New York was a rheumatologist, and he just inspired me to try to do good in life, and it was wonderful. And then Orem Klein over at Cooper in New Jersey was just a great mentor. He was a senior guy, loved to operate. I worked with him for 2 years, getting all this wonderful knowledge. And those are really the 3 people I think that drove me where I am.
One of the most significant achievements that you've had, and I mentioned it in the introduction, was the development of the Siepser sliding knot.
Yes, sir.
What was the medical issue that the procedure was designed to address?
I think that's a great example of most of the things I've done. Back in the day when we took out cataracts, I think I have a little model here. Let me look at this one. So cataracts are this lens getting cloudy. And so when we used to take it out in a whole way with a freezing probe, we had to cut a hole in the iris. Many, many years ago, you may have seen it. People look like they had a keyhole in their iris. There's a large opening. And at the time, ophthalmologists used to say, oh, that doesn't matter. Patients, their lid covers it. But I listened to the patients, and they said they had a lot of glare. They couldn't drive. It changed their lives. They were never normal again. So I started using an operation called the mechanical suture, where I'd sort of try to pull the iris out and close it. And patients said, wow, that's better, but it didn't look well to me. So I struggled with that for several years until one time I was on a fishing trip down in Key West, and I was making flies, and you can sort of take a fly, you don't really tie it right on the fly. You sort of slide the knot down onto the fly. And because it's so tiny, you can't tie right in there in all the stuff that's there, so you slide it in. I said, oh, wait a minute, I'll pull the suture out of the eye and I'll knot it outside and I'll slide it into the eye. And that's how it was born. And it was very hard to teach people. It took me many, many years before it was an accepted procedure, and now it's done worldwide.
And how have outcomes changed as a result of it?
These patients, it changes their lives. In fact, to this day, I'll occasionally find a patient whose doctor said, oh, you don't need to repair that, you're okay. And really, they're still resistant. I give a national course. A guy just came from Alaska not too long ago, and we've got a great clip of him saying, well, you know, I'd be on TV, and he was an expert in whales, and he'd be interviewed, and people would be looking at his eye and not talking to him about what the subject was, and we operated on his eye, and it changed his life.
Now this procedure, people used to come from outside the U.S. to you to do the procedure, but now surgeons are using it.
There's probably about 20 people in the country now who do it routinely.
How about outside the country? Anybody?
Yes, oh yeah, and mostly in Europe, Czechoslovakia and the Balkans, that area. It was first published in a Czechoslovakian journal, so it it got legs there first, and but still there's so much nuance. There's Michael Snyder in Cincinnati, he's very good at it. They've added things, you know. These things don't stand still; they're not static.
What led you so far into your career to start and run another business? I mean, you know, this is effectively VisionLock, which I mentioned in the and I know Charlie's going to ask you some questions about the company specifically, but I'm interested in what leads someone so far into their career to seemingly start and run a brand new, you know, company that's outside the practice of medicine.
I've always been, I have this big sense of justice, and I've always noticed that the way we're driving medicine excellence, it's sort of with a stick about some numbers, and then it's malpractice, another stick. But really, people are looking for skilled surgeons, and they don't want to be injured, they want to have a great result. And there's really no way. Health grades, it's a popularity contest. Yelp, I mean, those don't really help people find highly skilled surgeons. As a fact, a lot of very highly skilled surgeons don't have great bedside manner. They're sort of like operating. My own mother, I sent her to a very skilled surgeon in Florida. She called me up, she said, Stevie, I didn't like him. He didn't spend much time with me. And I said, because he's busy, you know, operating. So she went to a less skilled surgeon, and it was a disaster. And if I had had VisionLock at that time, I could have said, look, Mom, I know all the surgeons in Florida. The ones I'm going to send you to are so good, safe, and consistent that we actually can ensure the outcomes. Because it's addressing the consumer on their terms, you know, what they need to hear. And they understand insurance. They don't understand like MD, FACS, all those numbers, and I'm a great guy, I got great bedside. That doesn't really count. Where I went to medical school, where I trained, nothing. What really counts is, what are my statistics for outcome? Like that movie Moneyball?
Yeah.
You know, that's how you find a good team. It's the same way you find a good surgeon. By using our parameters, we were able to identify surgeons so skilled and consistent that we'd actually insure their outcomes. I mean, this is $1 million. You go to one of our surgeons, we can insure your outcome for laser vision correction for $1 million. Now, this speaks to the consumer, because the consumers, they don't understand LASIK or Vizx laser or technology. They don't understand that. It's all like goes right over their head. They understand insurance. And when you say, well, this doctor is so safe and consistent that he can ensure the outcome, that's something they understand. Because if you have a car, you have too many accidents, you can't get insurance, right? If this physician is going to give you this policy for free as part of the package you're purchasing for your procedure, you're going to think, wow, he must be really good. All those terrible things I had to read about in the informed consent, well, he doesn't have those things happen. So he ensures his outcome. It makes the consumer feel as though they've selected, and they're safe and confident that they've selected a really good surgeon for themselves.
And Charlie's going to ask you some more detailed questions about VisionLock. I want to ask two things about how you got there. First was, how has your experience as a physician and a surgeon, if at all, helped prepare you to start and run what's effectively an insurance company?
Well, I do a fair amount of expert witness, so I'm on the stand and I'm defending physicians. And there was an article in 1992 in the New England Journal of Medicine when they looked at 35,000 untoward outcomes. And they tried to look like, did the doctor make a lot of mistakes? And they found that there was no correlation between what the injured party got financially, how egregious the error was, or how injured the patient was. It was all about who the plaintiff's attorney was. And why should somebody lose an eye in California get $7 million and somebody in Oklahoma get $1 million? So I wanted to sort of stabilize that system. And the costs of litigation are so high. And throughout society, the trial bar, it's $1 trillion. But even like for one single loss, supposing somebody's seriously injured, they lose an eye, and they end up in court and the doctor did something wrong and the patient is injured, or the doctor didn't do anything wrong, but the jury feels sorry for the injured party and they award maybe $1 million. Well, in the end, $400,000 goes to the attorney, and then there's all the costs of running this trial, all the lost time, the jury, the experts, and in the end, an analysis, the number isn't really $1 million, it's probably costs about $1.7 million, and the plaintiff only really ends up with 17% of the cost of that entire system. So it's a broken system. A business model, I always say, there's usually a good business solution to a social ill. You just have to find it.
Would you say that, I mean, if somebody looks at this without digging from the outside and said, gee, he's a practicing physician and he started this business completely unrelated to his practice of medicine, would you view it that way, or do you view what you've done as an extension of everything that you've done in your career up to this point?
That's a great question. You know, Kimon, I look at it as an extension. As a senior guy, every few months I get called into the OR for, a great young surgeon who's sort of gotten himself into an issue and a problem. And of course, when I was operating as a young man, our complication rate was 20%. 20%, 1 out of 5 didn't go well. Today, the complication rate in skilled hands is like 1 in 10,000. The public doesn't know that, but in some hands it's 1 in 100. So when I help a young surgeon, it's not that they're not great, they've never seen those problems, they don't know what to do. When I back somebody with VisionLock, I make sure they really know what to do no matter what the situation is.
So tell us about the Patient Confidence Corporation of America and VisionLock. You drill down on specifically how does the product work, if you would.
So the product works in that we pass the risk through. The patient doesn't buy anything. They get this for free. The doctor covers the patient with a policy on a per-eye basis. And that money goes to our organization. We take that money and we pass through and pass the risk on to an insurance company known as the underwriter. And we've changed underwriters a couple of times, and actually we're in transition again. I'm looking for another new insurance company to back this product because it's a little scary. It's new. It's unheard of, but I'm used to that. When I invented the Siepser slide knot, nobody listened. When I invented a lot of these products, they weren't quite ready. I have another product, it's 30 years now, finally we're introducing it this spring. Because there's the technology, the needs, everything has to align. That's why I've been dogged in developing this product, because I really see the need. And by the way, we'll be going on to dental implants. I'm talking to a young orthopedic surgeon because people get hips and knees and they have infections and or products aren't good. And I think when you even go to buy a TV, you have a warranty, right?
Right.
And these are operations. Why aren't they warranted?
So is it universal through, could a doctor of any type get this kind of coverage in a perfect world, or are there some specialties where it wouldn't necessarily work? You know,
it's very interesting. One of the things our study showed was, like in ophthalmology, my specialty, less than 5% of the surgeons will be capable of getting to the Six Sigma, because all surgeons are the same? I don't think so. All baseball players are the same?
Right.
I operated on LaShawn McCoy, right? The cover of Sports Illustrated, right? He's a pretty good football player, right? But surgeons actually are just as different. And we're going to identify those very superior skilled surgeons who don't have poor outcomes, and then we're going to back them. And that's why we can't have it for everyone, every procedure, everything, because there are a lot of procedures that have high complication rates. And then there are a lot of things where we need to measure and find people who we haven't quite figured out how to measure.
So how would a physician qualify for the program, and is there a certain time in the business that they'll have to spend, or could you find a surgeon straight out of med school, let's say, with a superior record, or are we looking for surgeons who have done it and been there and have established you have to have enough swings of the bat in order to have a record? I mean, what is the process? Who can qualify?
Well, when I read Malcolm Gladwell's book, 10,000 Hours,
Right.
I started to note that we actually have an algorithm that I developed on an Excel spreadsheet. It's pretty rare, a guy just coming out. He's got to have done 500 procedures before we look at him.
Okay.
And then he's got to be doing a couple hundred a year of that particular operation if we're going to back him. We like 5,000 operations in laser vision correction. So it matters which operation we're talking about and the skill level, skill set. And then today with the big data, we can actually dig in and find out what is this complication rate. No doctor is going to admit to that, right?
Right.
But we go into the records, we scan codes, we figure out what their real complication rate. Then I review the operative records personally. And in the first 14 doctors, I personally evaluate everyone. Now we have a nurse, and we're in a different situation than we were when we started because we're more diverse. We're in Texas, Arizona, Georgia, Florida, and Pennsylvania. So we're sort of spread right now. That's one of my issues right now is getting a sales force that's excellent at intangible sales. You know, you want to sell a car, you kick the tires and everything, but this is
You don't have to believe the person if you're selling a tangible. You better believe them if it's an intangible, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. I mean,
Right.
you're in that business yourself.
Right. Right. So you've explained what states it's presently available in. How about intellectual property? Do you have any proprietary intellectual property?
That's a great question. We I actually wrote a patent with Saul Ewing at the time, and it was before the Bielski decision. The whole patent law thing is a wreck right now, and business process patents are gone. But I do have the pleasure when 20 years from somebody else says, well, I thought of that last year, you know, when I would say, well, go read the patent I wrote 30 years ago.
Wow.
So the patent, it's a mark in time that this was done, I thought of it, we developed this, and then we've gone forward.
Right.
The enormous barrier to entry, it's insurance. You have to have seasoning. You have to be around a few years. You have to have done this before. Insurance companies just don't back anybody. In fact, they're very circumspect.
Many of the guests on our show express concern about the ongoing need to raise money. Now, your company is operating now, so
Correct.
it's not quite where some of the startup companies are that we
Yes.
see on the show.
Yeah.
But how are you currently being funded, and how are you thinking about addressing your funding needs in the near term and beyond?
So initially we raised $1 million and we issued stock to, there's about 12 investors. That got us launched back in 2009 in this tremendous headwind, but a insurance underwriter at the time said, oh, we'll back you. So we went, because it was hard to find an underwriter, an insurance company. We ran through that money, and actually by the time we were really operational, the sales costs were higher than we expected, so we raised another $500,000 with something called a senior convertible debt, which we still take money in, and it's about, you get about 1% of the company for every $30,000. We're valued about a $5 or $6 million company right now. And I may or may not need another small dollop of cash, and I'm thinking somewhere around $200,000 to just hire this sales force, because they'll be commission-based, but I need to enlarge more quickly. I just got 5 states 4 months ago, and it's hard to grow that quickly.
Sure. What would you consider a successful outcome for VisionLock?
Well, we hope that it sort of becomes a standard in the medical industry, that when your family or yourself needs a procedure done, you go online and look for a VisionLock doctor. And you're assured that you're going to a superior doctor who has a very low rate of poor outcome. that would be a wonderful success. And if we cover a large section of medical care, that's a success. Is it like, or how much money are you going to take home, Steve? That's not success in my life.
And that makes you unusual with regard to a lot of the companies that that we talk to on our show, because a lot of people say, oh, if we could go public, if we could be acquired in an M&A transaction, and they move on to the next thing. That's not really how you look at this.
No.
This has been your life, the practice of medicine and eye surgery, and this to you is how am I improving the entire experience, both for the public and how am I guess rewarding top doctors who have worked so hard to become excellent in their field, and now they get to become part of this team.
I have no understand. Would you want to go to a doctor who makes $100,000 a year, or one who makes $500,000? And there's a problem now because the insurance companies are trying to, basically what an insurance company does is they say, oh, well, come to our doctors, they're the best, right? And then they turn around and say, hey, Dr. Siepser, how cheap can you do this? And we want to differentiate, well, we're so good, we can assure outcomes, but our fees are a little higher, but it'll be worth it. And that's the differentiation I'm looking for. That's going to help me in my own practice, sure. One. And two, it's going to help the whole medical industry, because we are in a two-tier system. Everybody realizes that. There's what you get with insurance, but if you want the good stuff, you got to buy it. You want to go down to Penn and stay at the Pavilion? Pay out the bucks. You want to go pay all, these hospitals have 2 levels of care. It's already here. In my specialty, we have 2 levels of care. You can have a regular cataract operation, or you can have a cataract operation where you don't wear glasses anymore. Not near, not intermediate, not distance. And those abilities are not sort of marketed or known well by the public. And VisionLock can help with all that. And not only that, it's going to solve a small social ill, and that's the trial bar. They might do better elsewhere than in medicine. I don't know if it really helps us be better.
Okay. I'm going to have to stop there. We could go on for, I think, another 30 minutes, but I really enjoyed it. Maybe we can have you back again sometime. But I have to close the show now. So my thanks to Dr. Steven Siepser for being our special guest this evening. Charlie, thank you for co-hosting with me. The next guest on Money Matters is Joe Callahan, who's the chairman and CEO of C-Right One, a mobile technology solutions provider focused on simplifying everyday tasks for businesses and consumers. Money Matters is now available as an audible podcast on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, listed as Money Matters the Podcast for mobile devices. The video is available on our YouTube channel as well as on our website. Thank you for watching this evening, and we'll see you again next time.